I, the man within the silence. In the early morning silence of Jerusalem's old city, as the first light hit the stone walls, shadows still ruled the back alleys of the market. There, tucked against a crumbling wall, sat a man like steam from a rusted kettle, faint and nearly invisible. His name was Yitzhak. Once a carpenter, Yitzhak's hands still bore the marks of his craft, calloused palms, strong wrists, thick fingers. But life had unraveled quickly. After losing his wife to cancer, he fell into debt, lost his workshop, and eventually his home. Now, his bed was a piece of cardboard and his blanket a worn coat. He never begged. His pride had become the heaviest burden to carry. He simply sat quietly, trying to remain unseen in a world that had forgotten him. 2. The unexpected visitor. That day, the streets buzzed more than usual. Black armored vehicles lined the entrance to the market. Reporters, security guards, and vendors murmured something was different. Benjamin Netanyahu had arrived on a symbolic visit to support small local businesses. As he walked through the crowd, something caught his eye, a man sitting silently against the wall. Face lowered, almost blending into the stone. Stop, Netanyahu told his security team. He walked toward Yitzhak. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Yitzhak looked up, blinking in disbelief. Are you Netanyahu? He asked, voice trembling. Netanyahu crouched down, meeting him at eye level. What's your name? Yitzhak. Yitzhak Ovram. Do you live here? Yitzhak nodded silently. For a long moment, Netanyahu said nothing. Then, he pulled a small notepad from his pocket, scribbled something, and looked Yitzhak in the eyes. I promise you, this encounter doesn't end here. And with that, he walked away. Yitzhak, for the first time in years, felt visible. 3. Shadows of the past. That night, Yitzhak couldn't sleep. Netanyahu's words echoed in his ears. This doesn't end here. He had heard many promises before, from social workers, charities, even politicians. But no one had ever looked at him that way. Not as a burden. As a person. Lying on the cold cardboard. He remembered the scent of sawdust in his old shop, the swing he built for his grandson, his wife's laughter from the kitchen. One thought kept returning. Is it really possible to start over? 4. A quiet plan. The next morning, outside the city center, a small private meeting was held. Netanyahu sat with 3 advisors. Quietly, he placed a file on the table. I don't know this man, he said. But I can't forget his face. Yitzhak Ovram. Former carpenter. Homeless for years. We are going to do something for him. One advisor hesitated. Sir, there are many like him. Netanyahu shook his head. Maybe. But he's the one standing in front of us now. We'll give him something to stand on. What kind of project? Another asked. A small carpentry shop. Some second-hand tools. Startup funding. No press. But why no press? Because this isn't PR. It's humanity. Rebirth. For a week, a quiet transformation took place in a forgotten alley. A small shop space was rented, repainted, rewired. Old tools were donated. A retired carpenter volunteered to assist. Yitzhak knew nothing of this. He continued sitting in his corner, invisible to the world, until a black van stopped in front of him. Eli Cohen stepped out, followed by Netanyahu. Yitzhak struggled to stand. Come, Netanyahu said, extending a hand. There's something I want you to see. Yitzhak hesitated. Why are you doing this? Because someone once gave me a hand. Now it's my turn. 6. The door opens. The shop door creaked open. Inside, the smell of fresh paint and wood filled the air. Old machines stood proudly. Wooden shelves, a clean workbench, and a letter sealed in an envelope. Yitzhak opened it. Dear Yitzhak Ovram. This workshop is not about your past, it is about your future. This place is entrusted not to you, but to your hands. We've only opened the door. The key belongs to you. Benjamin Netanyahu. Yitzhak sank to his knees. He didn't cry. He simply held the letter, closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he felt sunlight inside. 7. Opening day. There was no ribbon cutting, no reporters. But the neighborhood came. An old neighbor brought a wobbly table. A mother brought her child's broken toy chest. Yitzhak fixed them both. When offered money, he refused. "Let this be a gift," he said. "You're my first customer." That night, he sat alone in the shop and looked through the small window at the stars. For the first time in years, he felt home. 8. A story spreads. 2 weeks later, a journalist got wind of the story. The headline read, "One workshop, one hope, the return of Yitzhak Ovram." TV crews followed. Though Yitzhak shied away from the spotlight, Netanyahu issued a simple statement. Israel isn't built only through grand policies, but by lending a hand to those who fall. This isn't charity. This is what should be done. Social media exploded with praise. Messages poured in. "My father was a carpenter. I cried reading this. Let Yitzhak make my next table. Taking my son to meet him, to see real humanity." But backlash followed. Critics called it political theater. They mocked the gesture. Yitzhak ignored it all. Every morning he opened his shop, swept the sawdust, and quietly rebuilt his life. 9. Attack and resolve. One morning, he found the window shattered. Red spray paint red. Political puppet. His hands trembled as he cleaned it. He boarded up the window with wood. That day, he took no customers. That night, Netanyahu visited. "No matter what people say," he said, "this place is more than nails and timber. It's resistance in silence." He placed a note on the bench. "A new window will be delivered tomorrow. The bill is on us. But installing it, that's on you." The next morning, Yitzhak installed it himself. One last hammer strike and it was done. That wasn't just a window. It was a promise. A second spring. Yitzhak's shop was now more than a business. It was a community space. A 14-year-old boy, Omri, entered one day, carrying a broken toy. Yitzhak noticed he kept returning, just watching. "You want to learn?" he asked. The boy nodded. "But we can't afford tools." "Then this place is also yours," Yitzhak smiled. Omri became his apprentice. He swept, sorted nails, and slowly learned the craft. For the first time, his eyes sparkled with confidence. A second spring had come, not just for Yitzhak, but for a new generation. 11. The letter in the shadows. One evening, a plain envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a note. "I was once your neighbor. I stayed silent when they evicted you. I looked away when you were on the street. But seeing you rise again woke my conscience. This letter is not for you, it's for me. I'm sorry. Someone who once looked away." Yitzhak pinned the letter on his cupboard and wrote beneath it, "Everyone wakes up late. What matters is what they do after." 12. A new life. Yitzhak began teaching children once a week. Every visitor left with a story. Netanyahu visited quietly sometimes, dropping off old tools, a kettle, or sometimes nothing at all but a nod. One day, a small girl entered the shop, holding a wooden box. "My father made this," she said. "I mean, you did." Behind her, a woman entered. "I'm Sarah. After they took your shop, I found out I was pregnant. She's your granddaughter." Time froze. Yitzhak knelt down, and the girl hugged him tightly. A broken family had mended itself, without words. 13. Looking through the same window. 3 years had passed. Yitzhak's hair had turned completely white, but his eyes retained their shine. The shop had expanded. Omri had graduated, now helping to train new apprentices. One morning, Netanyahu returned. He stood outside and looked in through the window. Yitzhak, inside, looked up. Their eyes met. No words. Just a nod. Sometimes the strongest bonds are built not in speeches, but in silence through the same window. 14. The end of the story. Yitzhak once wrote a small booklet, A Life Made of Wood. Not about carpentry techniques, but about second chances. The final line read, Sometimes one nail doesn't just hold wood together, it holds fate. And the hand that holds the hammer, whether a politician or stranger, if it's sincere, it can rebuild a life. He hung that quote above the entrance. Everyone who entered the shop read it first. And the story was no longer just his. It belonged to us all.